Hi, this is A. Wesley. That ain't even tells it like a TI is. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe. The topic I'm going to talk to you today about is Belle Collective. Belle Collective Season 2, Episode 4 happened this past Saturday. It's called the Heirs Wars. It started off with Lateshia outside of a building, and then she called Aikisha, and she told Aikisha, she said, Aikisha, I think this is the right building that you're in. She said, yeah, it is. She said, I'm coming right out. I'm coming right out. So Aikisha came out of her office, a building, and she was showing Lateshia around, and she was telling Lateshia that her father had owned some land, and she was saying that back in the day, her grandfather couldn't buy the land, so he had to put the land. He had to put the land. He had to put the land. In his owner's name, which was a white man, so he could buy the land. Because back then, she said they wouldn't let black people buy land, and so she was saying that she showed us some kind of building. She was saying back in the day that was one of those houses where they house slaves, and she was saying a lot of Farish Street has a lot of history, have a lot of history behind it, which a lot of the history is the history of slavery. And she was saying at one time. Farish Street was considered a plantation back in the day, and so she was giving a little history. And then Lakeisha said in her confessional, like she don't know Farish Street, like she don't know the history of Farish Street, like she ain't searched Farish Street. She searched Farish Street, and to her it's kind of boring. And she trying to give her a tour around, and she said, well, this place over here is the place that I grew up in, and you see right across the street is the church that is the church that I grew up in. She said, oh, that's the church you grew up into? She said, yeah. She said, like I said, my family has a lot of history down here on Farish Street, and then that's why I was willing to go into the project with you. And she said, oh yeah, okay, well, let's go into this inn and let's get some lunch to eat. So they went into the inn, they got some lunch to eat. And then the scene switched to where Marie was showing up at Letitia's office, and she told Letitia that she wanted to talk to her about what happened at the brunch. And Letitia said, yeah, I want to talk about that too. And she said, I want to give you a chance to cool off. And Marie said, well, Letitia, what it is, I think I shouldn't be coming back to any of your brunches. It would be in my best interest for me not to come to any of your brunches. And Lakeisha said, well, I thought you was my friend, and that's why I invited you to my brunch for the women's empowerment thing, because I know you about empowering women and women in businesses, but but the way you acted at my brunch, you almost ruined my brunch. And then Marie said, I'm always getting accused of ruining your brunches, stuff like that. That's why I say it's in my best interest for me not to come. She said, but as my friend, you should have stayed at the brunch. You shouldn't have left. She said, well, I told you what was going on. I couldn't be around Latrice and all the other stuff that I was going on. And she was saying, well, Marie was saying to Letitia, what more do you want me to do? She said, I want you to make up with Latrice and move on. She said, the stuff that you telling me, you need to tell Latrice. And then Lakeisha said, I did tell Latrice. Why you think Latrice came into the bathroom to talk to you about it, but you didn't want to talk about it? She said, no, I didn't want to hear Latrice lying, because before she can even say anything out of her mouth, I know what she was going to say, but she wasn't responsible for doing it. It was somebody else's stuff. I just don't believe that, so I'm not going to any more of your brunches. And then so Lakeisha told Marie, I hate that you feel like that. She said, but if that's the way you want to do it, that's the way we're going to do it. And then it switched to the next scene where Aikisha was driving with her husband in the car, and she was complaining about her husband parking skills. And he said, when you're not in the car, I can park very well, but when you're in the car and you talking, I can't park very well. I know I had a brother like that that if you talk while he was driving, he couldn't drive good. So a lot of times I would just be quiet until we got to the place. But yeah, so they went into the restaurant and they ordered some I think they ordered some smoothies or lattes or something. And so they sat down at the table to talk, and she was saying, well, when I was at that brunch, I met this lady. Her name is Sophia. I think her name was Sophia Williams or something, and she was saying, well, she called herself SoGuuci, and the man and her husband Wille said, well, why she call herself SoGuuci? She said, well, that's what she called herself, but she's in the real estate. She's a real estate agent, and she's supposed to be showing us properties. And he said, showing us properties. He said, I thought we were going to be here temporary. That's why we was renting out that townhouse. She said, well, I don't like to pay no rent to no other people, and I'm looking at it, we're gonna be here for a while. He said, well, Keisha, that's not what you said when we decided to come down here. He said, how long we gonna be down? She said, well, I talked to the people, it's gonna be at least about 2 years to get everything up and running and stuff. So it's gonna take, say, 2 years. She said, yeah, it's gonna take about 2 years, and I don't be renting no townhouse for no 2 years. And she gonna show us some property. He said, well, I can't see myself moving down here permanently to Mississippi, to Jackson, Mississippi. He said, I wouldn't even. I was surprised that I came down here, and so. And so she said, well, she's gonna show us some properties. He said, well, okay, but I'm just saying, you that's not what we agreed on. So the next scene was with Aikisha met up with SoGuuci at the house, and SoGuuci was saying in a confession, well, I know what Aikisha like. She likes stuff that's contemporary, that's modern, that's up to date, and this is exactly the house that I'm showing her. So she came in, and then it was SoGuuci and I guess a real estate partner, whatever. They were showing Aikisha around the house, and then Aikisha said, Willie, where you come from? He said, I came from the back. She said, you came from the back. There's a way to come from the back. She said, yeah, that's the way to come in through the back door and stuff. So Willie came in. They got to looking around the house and stuff. And then so she said, well, how you like it? She said, well, I do like that outdoor pool, and I do like all this closet space and all this space right here and stuff. And she said, well, y'all right? She said, well, what it is, Gucci, let me talk to Willie. And Gucci said, oh yeah, I step up right out the room. I'll let you talk to her. And so when they got to talking, he said, this is show is a big house, Aikisha. He said he said we already staying in I think he said 50,000 square feet house in New York. He said we don't need to be buying this. I said this house look like about 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. She said, well, like I said, it's just temporary. He said, well, how temporary? She said, I just told you it's gonna be out 2 years. He said, look, to me, we don't need this big type of house. We need to like get a smaller place. And she was saying, well, he said, look like you kidnapping me. And she said, no, I'm not kidnapping you. It's just that I want you. It's just that I want you to. She said, I just want you to. She said, I just want you to Obama me like I Michelle you. I wrote for you the whole time we was in New York and stuff and stuff like that. He said, well, yeah, you really tell me that. And then let me give me some water. Okay, I'm back. The next scene is when Glenn showed up at Mama Faye's house, and he said Mama Faye is really Letitia's mom, but he said he been knowing Mama Faye since he was a teenager, so he considered Mama Faye as his mom too, even though she's his mother-in-law. And so he came in and he asked Mama Faye how was she doing. She said, I'm doing all right. And she said, he said, how's my son doing? She said, your son is doing okay too. But he has friends to help him to going through stuff. He said, that's what I was wondering about, because my son was so used to us being a family, and now we separated. And she was saying, he said, I just came over here to get advice from you, Mama Faye, about what I could do to save my marriage. And she said, Glenn, you know what you gotta do to save your marriage. You gotta stop cheating on Lateshia. You cheat on Lateshia, and that's what broke y'all up, and that's the problem. He talking about Mama Faye. Why y'all keep bringing it up? Why you and Lateshia keep bringing it up? Why y'all keep bringing it up? You know that's in the past, and I apologize for that. She said, but you also had a baby with that woman too. Supposedly, and he was saying, well, we kind of worked that out. I kind of talked to her. She said, Lateshia is hard to forgive, Glenn. And he said, but what can I do? What can I do? She said, like I told you, you got to prove yourself to her. You got to prove yourself to her. And then he was saying, well, I have been doing that. I brought her flowers about this. And then Mama Faye looked. She said, look. you kind of smooth. I gotta watch you. And I'm looking at now. Don't say the word smooth. Say the word slick. He's slick. You know, the more and more that I see of Glenn outside of Lateshia, I'll be wondering why Lateshia even bothered to mess with him when she was a teenager. He's a very slick character. I mean, his slickness is showing very much on the show. And I'm looking at, girl, I don't know, maybe you was 17 and maybe that was the first man that looked at you or whatever, because I don't know, but it's like you can see his slickness and stuff like that. And then so Mama Faye was saying, well, do whatever you can to try to get Lateshia back. Yeah, because that's my family, and I'm no good without my family, and I love my family, and I want my family back. And Lateshia mama was giving him the side eye, just like I was giving him the side eye. Glenn is very, very slick, and stuff like that. And I guess that's how he won her over a couple of other times. But anyway, after that, it switched to the next scene where Esse showed up at Godness Length's hair wig shop that Latrice owned, and Latrice was talking to her cashier, and she was explaining to her about what was going on. And she said, "Oh, I just want to talk to you." She said, "Are you finished?" She said, "Yeah, I'm getting ready to close." And so she said, "Ooh," they went to sit down in I guess the lounge area. They said, "Ooh, it's been a long day, long day." And Esse said, "Yeah, it's been a long day." And she said, and Latrice said, "I'm surprised you came down to my neck of the woods. You know, y'all think my neck of the woods." And she said, "Well, I decided to come to your neck of the woods because I want to talk to you about Marie and what went on at the brunch." And she said, "Yeah, I was surprised about that too." And she was saying, well, she said, "Well, we know about your little bitty place." He said, "Little bitty place, my little, this is God's links. I've been making a whole lot of stuff." And she was saying, well, I respect y'all. I respect y'all businesses and stuff, but y'all not God's links. And then Esse say, "Look, me and Marie used to be hairdressers and hairstylists before we got into the healthcare business. So we know about the beauty business. So you don't have to tell us about that." So that back and forth shade that Latrice and Esse was doing was good. And she said, "Well, like I said, it's not God's links." And she said, "Like I said, yeah, you're not in a high. You're not in a high-end area like we are." She said, "Well, what is, I like to stay around my people. My people is the one that got me popping out. So I'm going to stay around my people. And I'm thinking about moving up anyway." And so they get that little bitty banner kept on going, and then it went out. And then she was saying, "Well, Latrice," Esse was saying, "Well, Latrice, you got to understand how Marie felt, because with that stuff coming out on the internet and the media about that stuff, and they showed all kind of articles where they were saying Latrice was not Latrice, that Marie's clinics were having Medicaid fraud. They had all kind of little articles they were putting up on the screen. And so after that, Esse said, "Well, you gotta agree that did hurt our business. We lost clients, we lost customers, we lost this." She said, Latrice said, "But I had nothing to do with that." She said, "You might not have nothing to do with it." She said, "But I'm gonna give you an example." She said, "What if somebody robbed a bank and the person who's outside sitting in the car is stuff? That means he's an accomplice too, even though he didn't walk in the bank with the other person." She said, "Well, I didn't put it out there." She said, "But Latrice, you will admit that you had something to do with it." She said, "Well, I didn't put it out there, but when the person told me that they might do it, I told them I didn't care about Marie. If it was up to them, they could put out about Marie, but don't talk about Tisha." And she was saying, well, that's why I was saying you was accomplice. You was indirectly involved in that. Yes, you was, Latrice. You do need to apologize to Marie, because by you telling her to you didn't care about Marie, that meant that gave her an option to go ahead on and talk about Marie, even though you didn't tell her not to. She looked at it. You said you didn't care about Marie, so Latrice, you do need to apologize to Marie for that. And so so she said, "Well, what you want me to do?" She said, "Well, I'll try to set up a meeting between you and Marie." She said, "We tried that, and Marie don't want to listen to what I say." She and Esse say, "This time is gonna be different. This time is gonna be different." She said, "Okay," and then Latrice walked her to the door. And then the next scene was where Glenn met up with with Latrice for a dinner date. And so he said, ooh, she looking mighty cute. She looking mighty good now. I want all of that. And then she sat down and he was saying, you know, you look good. You look nice. She said, I know I look good. She said, I know I look good. I know I look nice. She said, she said, I'm gonna remind you of what you missing. He said, you sure did. That's why you need to come on, come on. She said, Glenn, I'm tired of you playing with me. I'm tired of you playing with me. She said, you always talking about you love me and I look good and this, that, and that, but then you still go out and cheat on me. She said, I'm not that little girl that I used to be back in the day when we were teenagers. She said, I'm a grown woman now, and if you can't respect me and I can't be enough for you, then maybe you don't need to be in a marriage. This is enough. I'm trying to do everything. I'm trying to do everything. She said, but you cheated on me, and then you had a baby on me. We said, why you keep bringing it up? She said, because that's the problem. I can't have it if I'm not enough for you. When you don't need to be able to. You're enough for you. Said, but you got to prove yourself, Glenn. I need you. And then finally the show went off. Glenn is very smooth, and I don't blame Lateshia. I will make him work for everything. This is A. Wesley. That ain't even tells it like a TI is. I am out.